Usually when we talk about longevity, there is this expectation that it's all about hardware.
Right, like a machine.
Exactly. Like, you want a vintage car to hit 200,000 miles, so you swap out the tires, you upgrade the suspension, you just obsess over the physical parts. But then you realize, wait a second, what if the software running the machine is sending out false signals?
That's where things get complicated.
Right. What if your internal smoke alarm is constantly going off, not because there's an actual fire, but because, the wiring is glitched from a spark that happened a decade ago? Today, we are unpacking a truly fascinating stack of research titled Holistic Longevity, Biological Optimization, and Cellular Rejuvenation Strategies. And our mission for you today is simple.
Because it's not just about adding years to your life.
Exactly. It is about adding life to your years. I mean, longevity often feels completely overwhelming with just so much conflicting noise out there. But today, we are cutting right through it.
And it is so easy to fall into that purely mechanical view of aging. We like things we can easily measure, right? Like cholesterol or bone density.
Yeah, the numbers on a chart.
Exactly. But to truly optimize the human body, we have to journey from the inside out. That means before we look at what we consume or, what environment we live in, we have to address that software you just mentioned.
We have to fix the code.
Right. We have to look at how to instantly hack the brain and the nervous system.
Okay, let's unpack this because I am so excited about how much of this research completely flips traditional health advice on its head. So before we can optimize the physical body, we fix the software. And the research highlights clinical psychologist Dr. Nicole LePera and this concept of the conscious check-in.
Yeah, and it really starts with understand the profound physical impact of our emotional regulation. The underlying mechanism of stress is what is really fascinating here.
Also,
Well, when we are highly stressed or, when we are carrying unresolved trauma, the brain literally loses the connection between its hemispheres.
right.
Wait, literally?
Literally. The right hemisphere, which governs emotion, instinct, and raw feeling, it just stops communicating effectively with the left hemisphere. And the left is responsible for logic, language, and meaning. So you are physically and neurologically fragmented.
Wow. I mean, I think we've all felt that, right? Like you are panicking about something, and even though logically you are safe, your body is completely freaking out.
Yes, exactly. Your left brain knows you're fine, but your right brain is sounding the alarm. So the action step the research suggests is surprisingly simple. You set an alarm on your phone or use a daily habit, like drinking your morning coffee, to just pause.
It's a forced pause.
Right. You do a conscious check-in, you focus on your muscle tension, or notice if your breathing is shallow, and then you follow it up with what is called bilateral stimulation.
Bilateral stimulation.
Yeah.
Which the research says is rooted in the science of EMDR, right?
Yes, EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It is a highly effective, evidence-based trauma therapy.
And the idea is that by engaging both sides of the body alternately, you physically force those two brain hemispheres to communicate again.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, it could be taking a walk without your phone,
Yeah.
and letting your eyes naturally scan the horizon from left to right, or it could be a butterfly hold.
Oh, yeah, where you cross your arms over your chest and rhythmically tap your alternate shoulders.
Exactly. And by doing that, you are actively moving yourself out of that fight, flight, or freeze state and shifting into a regulated, calm, parasympathetic state.
The case study they shared from Dr. LePera herself was just wild to me. She suffered from such severe nervous system dysregulation that she literally could not tolerate silence.
Yeah, she needed constant stimulation.
Right. In her daily life, she constantly needed city noise or like a television blaring in the background just to avoid this overwhelming physical agitation in her chest.
And that is a classic sign of an overactive sympathetic nervous system. I mean, your internal state is operating at such a frantic, chaotic frequency that your body feels it needs external noise to match it.
Because the silence is too loud?
Precisely. Silence feels threatening because it leaves you alone with that internal chaos. So she had to safely rebuild her tolerance for stillness by starting with simple nature walks. By focusing her attention externally on the movement of water or the rustling of trees, she could gently engage that bilateral eye movement and ground herself.
Rather than being trapped inside her own racing mind.
Right. And the longevity impact of this is huge. Short term, it grounds you. Long term, it lowers chronic cortisol, which prevents the reactive behaviors that drive, chronic stress-related diseases.
Which brings us to a massive paradigm shift in the research chronic pain. We have to talk about Dr. Howard Schubiner's work on pain reprocessing therapy, or PRT.
Yeah, the foundational principle of PRT is jarring for a lot of people to hear.
Yeah.
And that principle is all pain originates in the brain.
All of it. And look, I want to pause here for a second. If you are listening to this and you suffer from chronic back pain or debilitating migraines, hearing that your pain is in your brain might sound incredibly dismissive.
It sounds like we are saying it is made up.
Exactly. But stick with us because the science here is actually deeply validating.
Oh, absolutely. The pain is very real. You are actually feeling it. But the brain can generate real debilitating pain in the absence of any structural physical injury.
So why would it do that?
It uses pain as a danger signal to protect you from emotional distress or trauma.
Yeah.
Functional MRI scans, fMRIs, prove this conclusively.
Right, the scans.
Yeah. When they look at the brain of someone with a physical injury and someone with severe emotional distress, the exact same areas of the brain light up.
So it's exactly like that overly sensitive smoke alarm we talked about. The alarm is screeching, that's the pain. But it's going off not because the kitchen is on fire, but because the alarm remembers getting burned in the past.
That is a perfect analogy. And PRT works by providing the brain with what we call a prediction error.
A prediction error.
Yeah, so when the pain strikes, instead of panicking, which just confirms to the brain that there is indeed a danger, you consciously smile, you breathe, and you tell your brain, I am safe, we are okay. This is just a neural loop.
You recategorize the pain.
Right. You shift it from being a dangerous, incurable physical failure to a safe, reversible neural habit.
The story and the research about this was just mind-blowing. There was a woman who suffered from daily migraines for 17 years.
17 years.
17 years of her life dictated by this pain. She thought it was her glasses, her diet, her posture. But Dr. Schubiner discovered that her boss at the time was unpredictable and verbally abusive.
And crucially, her boss was an exact mirror of her abusive father.
Right. So her brain perceived massive emotional danger every time she walked into the office.
So it generated debilitating physical pain to force her to retreat, go to a dark room, and protect herself.
It was literally a defense mechanism.
Exactly. And when she recognized that connection, once she provided that prediction error and realized she was an adult who was safe now, those 17-year daily headaches vanished in 2 months.
2 months? That is incredible.
It really is. Rewiring that neural circuit through neuroplasticity literally cures conditions like fibromyalgia, migraines, and irritable bowel syndrome. It drastically expands a person's active health span.
Okay, so what does this all mean for us in the moment? When that internal smoke alarm starts blaring and we feel that panic rising, how do we get immediate physical control over the software?
Well, the research points to world champion freediver Alexei Molchanov and his 333 tidal breathing protocol.
Yeah, let's get into this because this protocol is wild.
It is a powerful, immediate intervention. It is basically 3 seconds inhale softly using only your belly, 3 seconds exhale, and a 3-second pause.
Okay.
And the key mechanism here is that the breath should be so shallow, it is almost inaudible. You are only using 10 to 20% of your lung capacity.
Okay, I have to push back here because this goes against everything we are taught. We are always told to take deep, massive breaths to calm down. Like, take a deep breath. Doesn't breathing so shallowly make you feel like you're suffocating? It sounds like it would cause a panic attack, not cure one.
It absolutely feels counterintuitive at first. But here is the biological mechanism at play. Overbreathing or taking huge hyperventilating breaths actually flushes carbon dioxide out of your bloodstream.
Right?
And a low level of CO2 triggers a massive anxiety response in the brain. It makes your blood vessels constrict.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Shallow breathing with pauses allows a very slight, controlled buildup of CO2. This forces your body to adapt. The CO2 acts as a vasodilator, opening up your blood vessels.
Which lowers your heart rate.
Drastically. It lowers your heart rate and shifts your brain activity into a hyper-focused meditative state.
And Molchanov uses this exact 5-minute routine right before plunging to world record depths of over 400 feet on a single breath. The research notes he boasts a heart rate variability, or HRV, of over 180 during peak competition.
Which is insane.
Right. Just to give you some context on that number, the average healthy adult usually has an HRV somewhere between 20 and 100. HRV measures the variation in time between your heartbeats. Higher is better because it means your nervous system is adaptable.
And 180 is almost superhuman. His heart rate drops into the 20s while swimming under extreme pressure.
It is an incredible display of autonomic control. So for you listening, applying this tidal breathing instantly resets your nervous system during acute stress like right before a big presentation or a difficult conversation.
And long term, You are training your nervous system to tolerate CO2, which builds extreme physiological resilience.
So we've patched the software and quieted the nervous system. The body is finally out of fight or flight and ready to actually absorb nutrients. But how do we ensure the fuel we are giving it doesn't trigger a whole new set of biological alarms?
Which brings us to the biological instructions of food. Because food is so rarely just about calories or energy. It is a complex set of hormonal instructions.
If the nervous system is the software, food is the code we type in every single day.
That's a great way to put it. And the research from Dr. Fernando Niclario on body recomposition makes this so clear. He focuses on protein-anchored macros.
Right. Basically, if you are in a caloric deficit, meaning you are eating less energy than you burn, trying to lose weight, but you are eating high carbohydrates, you will not burn fat.
No, you won't. And this comes down to the mechanics of the insulin thermostat. Carbohydrates rapidly spike insulin in the bloodstream. And insulin is a hormone that acts as a one-way valve for your fat cells.
A one-way valve.
Yes. When insulin is elevated, it signals the body to aggressively store fat, and it completely locks the door, blocking the use of stored body fat for energy.
Okay, so let's say you're eating fewer calories than you burn, but those calories are mostly like pasta, bread, or sugary snacks. Your insulin is constantly high. Your body is starved for energy because you are in a deficit, but insulin has locked the door to your fat stores.
Exactly.
So what does the body do to survive? It eats its own lean muscle mass for energy.
Yes, and you end up with what is colloquially called a skinny fat physique. You might see the number on the scale go down, but you are losing the wrong kind of weight. You are losing metabolic engine power.
Wow.
Yeah, a recent meta-analysis showed that low-carb groups in a caloric deficit experienced significantly greater reductions in fat mass, fasting glucose and triglycerides, while preserving vital fat-free muscle mass.
Dr. Niclario actually transformed his own health this way. The research notes he used to eat these high-carb meals, and half an hour later, he'd have a massive metabolic crash.
Oh, the food coma?
A total food coma where he couldn't keep his eyes open at his desk. By removing sugar and bread from his home and eating protein, first aiming for roughly 0.4 grams per kilogram of body weight per meal, he achieved stable all-day energy because his blood sugar wasn't on a roller coaster.
And preserving that lean muscle mass is one of the most reliable indicators of longevity we have. But the biological instructions of food go even deeper than metabolism. They dictate the microscopic environment of our cells. We have to look at Dr. William Lai's research on angiogenesis.
This part is fascinating. So angiogenesis is how the body grows new blood vessels. But tumors, these microscopic clusters of mutated cells that we all have in our bodies at any given time, actually hijack the system.
Right. They release growth factors to stimulate the growth of new capillaries to feed themselves.
Like tapping into a water main?
Yes. Now, our bodies have a natural defense system of endogenous inhibitors to stop this excess blood vessel growth. What Dr. Lee found is that certain whole plant foods contain compounds that powerfully support these natural inhibitors.
So they fight the tumors directly.
Well, rather than acting like landscapers trimming a lawn, these foods act more like a tactical squad, cutting off the enemy's supply lines. They physically snip the biological wires before the tumor can plug itself into your main blood supply.
And they tested these food extracts, things like green tea, soy, and certain berries, in the same highly rigorous blinded laboratory systems used to test pharmaceutical cancer drugs.
And the blind lab results were staggering. 50% of the tested foods were as potent or more potent than experimental cancer drugs at stopping tumor blood vessel growth.
50%. So I have to ask, if food is this powerful, why do we treat diet as an afterthought in modern medicine? Why is it just a footnote on a prescription pad?
It's a systemic blind spot, really, in how medical education is structured, prioritizing acute pharmaceutical intervention over preventative nutrition. But Dr. Liv frames it beautifully through the story of his great-uncle, who lived to be 104 years old.
104.
Yeah, and he retained a sharp mind, walked every day, and had total independence. It proves that extreme, healthy longevity is possible without spending your last decade in a nursing home.
Right, because you are actively starving potential diseases before they ever become a diagnosis.
Exactly. Research on centenarians consistently proves that optimal health span is heavily driven by dietary choices that lower inflammation and support vascular health.
Okay, so we've optimized the internal fuel and shut down the disease supply lines. But we don't live in a vacuum. We have to look at what we're exposing this machine to on the outside.
Right, the environment.
And how to clean out the systemic trash that inevitably builds up over decades. Which takes us to environmental exposures and cellular cleanup.
And the most impactful environmental exposure we often ignore is light.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Rowan Jacobson's research on sensible sunlight. We spend all day indoors staring at screens, right? And indoor light is measured at a dismal 200 to 400 lux.
That is so low.
To give you some context, 1 lux is roughly the illumination of a single candle 1 meter away. So indoors, you are getting the light of maybe a few hundred candles, but outdoors, natural bright light is anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 lux.
The disparity is massive, and our biology absolutely requires that intense outdoor light to function properly. Morning blue light from the sun hits melanopsin proteins in our eyes.
Which does what exactly?
That specific wavelength signals the master clock in the brain to turn off daytime sleep hormones and actually sets the timer for your evening melatonin release. It locks in your circadian rhythm.
But the midday sun is where the magic really happens. A few minutes of sensible, non-burning midday UVB exposure on bare skin does something incredible.
Well, this is my favorite part.
It hits the skin and literally breaks apart the dietary nitrates from the foods we just talked about, like leafy greens and beets, and instantly produces nitric oxide in the body.
And nitric oxide is a potent vasodilator. It enters the bloodstream, relaxes and widens the blood vessels, and reliably lowers blood pressure.
Dermatological studies show that simply shining UV light on volunteers lowers their blood pressure for about an hour.
Yeah, NASA satellite data even confirms that this UVB exposure lowers blood pressure completely independent of vitamin D production. The light itself is the trigger.
There was this amazing clinical experiment in Colorado, detailed in the research. They tracked healthy adults who averaged about 960 lux of light indoors in their daily lives. Then, they sent them camping for a week.
No artificial lights, just the sun and campfires.
Right. Their daily light exposure spiked to over 4,000 lux.
And the physiological shift was profound. Their internal clocks locked entirely into the solar cycle. They naturally fell asleep 1 to 2 hours earlier, woke up naturally earlier without alarms, and experienced significantly deeper, more restorative sleep.
Just from being outside and the elements they evolved in, it safely lowers blood pressure, which is the #1 lever to reduce cardiovascular disease deaths globally, and it sets the body up for perfect sleep.
But of course, with sun exposure, we have to talk about protecting the external layer of the machine, our skin.
We have to look at Dr. Anthony Young's autojuvenation skincare protocol. He is a board-certified plastic surgeon who basically shifted his entire career paradigm.
Yeah, he realized you can't just pull and stretch aging skin. You have to fix it at a cellular level. Skin ages primarily through oxidation, which is free radical damage from things like pollution and collagen degradation.
And a huge part of that collagen degradation actually comes from our diet, specifically advanced glycation end products, or AGEs.
Right, the sugar.
When you consume excess sugar or deep-fried foods, that sugar literally bonds directly to your collagen fibers in a process called glycation. It's like leaving a rubber band sitting on a hot dashboard for a year.
That is a great visual.
The sugar bakes into the structure until the collagen loses all its snap, becomes brittle, and just stays stretched out, ruining your skin's elasticity.
So, to combat both the environmental oxidation and the internal glycation, Dr. Yun developed a highly simplified 2-minute daily routine.
Walk us through it.
In the morning, you cleanse, apply an antioxidant serum combining vitamin C and E, and use SPF 30 plus TAF. In the evening, cleanse, apply a retinol, which is a vitamin A derivative, and exfoliate gently 1 to 3 times a week.
The mechanism behind these topicals is so elegant. Vitamin C and E work synergistically to actively neutralize the free radicals from UV rays and pollution before they can damage the cells.
And retinol acts as a biological signal that penetrates the skin and actively tells the deeper layers of the dermis to produce more collagen. It thickens the skin from the inside out.
He tested this routine on patients for 2 months. Based on blind before and after photo reviews by the general public, participants looked an average of 5 years younger.
5 years.
5 years without ever going under the knife.
And retinol is even scientifically proven to reverse early pre-skin cancers. So again, we see this incredible overlap between aesthetic, outward rejuvenation, and fundamental biological health.
Which brings us to the ultimate cellular cleanup. For those pursuing advanced medical longevity interventions, the research introduces therapeutic plasma exchange, or TPE, pioneered by Dr. Brad Youngren. So what is the actual mechanism of TPE? How does it work?
Well, as we age, our blood plasma, the liquid part of our blood, accumulates what we call inflammaging markers.
Inflammaging.
Yeah. These are harmful misfolded proteins, cellular waste, autoantibodies, and environmental toxins. Crucially, This includes circulating microplastics, which we are absorbing constantly now. So TPE is a procedure where they draw your blood, run it through a specialized machine that uses a centrifuge or a highly porous membrane to literally spin and separate the toxic liquid plasma away from your healthy red and white blood cells.
Oh, wow.
They discard that toxic liquid and pump your healthy cells back into your body along with a clean, purified albumin and saline solution.
So we're literally talking about an oil change for the human bloodstream. You're draining the sludgy oil and replacing it with synthetic clean fluid.
That is exactly the mechanism, an oil change for the bloodstream. It creates a clean slate that removes the systemic burden on your organs, promoting robust cellular rejuvenation. And TPE was actually inspired by those famous heterochronic parabiosis studies.
Right, those are the somewhat creepy studies where old mice were functionally rejuvenated by surgically sharing a blood supply with young mice. It sounded like science fiction.
It did, and it led to a lot of questionable companies trying to sell, like, young blood infusions. But researchers realized a vital, incredible nuance. They didn't actually need the young blood to achieve the effect.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Simply diluting and removing the toxic factors from the old plasma was enough to trigger massive rejuvenation in human patients. The body heals itself once the trash is removed.
The results are undeniable. In the recent Circulate trial, patients who underwent 6 TPE treatments over 3 months demonstrated an average biological age reduction of 2.6 years, measured across 36 different epigenetic clocks.
And it is currently the only known medical therapy proven to effectively remove circulating microplastics from the bloodstream.
That alone is massive, considering microplastics have recently been directly linked to significant increases in cardiovascular risk, heart attacks, and strokes.
Absolutely. Patients undergoing TPE frequently report profound subjective increases in energy, cognitive clarity, and vitality, simply because you are rapidly clearing the systemic inflammatory markers that drag the entire machine down.
So let's look at the incredible journey we've taken today. We started by learning how to patch the software, calming the inner smoke alarm of the brain using physical touch and eye movement to literally reconnect our cerebral hemispheres.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. We discovered that food isn't just calories. It's a series of hormonal instructions that dictate whether we burn fat or muscle. And it provides the tactical squads needed to snip the supply lines of microscopic tumors. We harness the hidden cardiovascular powers of midday sunlight to lower blood pressure. And we explored how literally changing the oil in our bloodstream can reverse our biological age. It is a completely different way of looking at human health.
It changes everything. And if we step back, I think there's a profound final thought here to mull over.
I'd love to hear it.
Well, if our brains possess the power to generate real, debilitating physical pain merely to protect us from a lingering emotional memory, and if simply stepping out from beneath our artificial lights into the midday sun can fundamentally alter our cardiovascular system, how many of the incurable modern diseases we face today aren't actually biological failures at all?
Oh, that's a good point.
How many of them are simply severe mismatches between our ancient, brilliantly adaptable biology and the synthetic, hyper-stressed modern environment we've built around it?
That is a question that is going to stick with me for a long time. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take that breath, step into the sun, and we will see you next time.